Trigger warning for kidnapping, PTSD, age gap, torture, and trauma.
It's called Smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsut.
I love a good sleep drug.
A melatonin gummy.
I was going to say NyQuil.
Oh.
Yeah.
I used to really drink NyQuil a lot. Now I drink CBD oil. And by drink,
Nice.
I mean dose.
Yeah,
dip,
sure.
Dip my tongue in.
I have a
Whatever you need to do.
My coworker casually dropped. They were like, "Yeah, I started taking Benadryl before bed every night because that's what my stepmom does." And I said, "Don't do that. That's really bad for you." And they go, "Really? Like she's been doing it for 20 years." And I was like, they doubted me enough that I thought, "Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else." And I Googled it while we were on the phone, and it was like, "Yes, if you take Benadryl consistently long enough, it's been tied to dementia." And I sent it to them. I was like, "Please have a conversation with your stepmother."
Yeah.
It might be too late.
It might be too late. It might be too late. But yeah, folks, do not take Benadryl every single day.
Just go with
It fucks you
NyQuil.
up.
Just
Don't-
abuse NyQuil like I do. Welcome to Femmes
welcome
Reading
to Femmes
Filth. I'm Emily.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Will.
Yeah.
Season 2, episode
2.
1, drugging ourselves, beep boop bop.
Wounded soldier.
Wounded Soldier. Speaking of drugs, Wounded Soldier
Wounded
is
Soldier.
our theme, is our
this one.
topic, is our trope,
Chosen by Will.
chosen by Will.
So why?
As it should be.
I know you mentioned in your intro episode that
all those weeks ago.
all those weeks ago that we had like kind of mentioned this trope, but was there any other reason that you picked Wounded Soldier?
I mentioned it a little briefly. You know, it was a Hunger Games is like one of the like romantic series I read growing up that happens in that. Another reason it's real dumb, but just in season 1 of Community, they make a joke about the wounded soldier during the paintball episode.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
And now I just, when you were like tropes, I was like, that's a trope. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." So
That's a
I
great
do
trope.
love Community.
I've been rereading a fic, one of my favorites, where Abed, Annie, and Troy figure out a throuple, and it's so fucking cute.
Yeah?
It is one of my favorite fics, and I've been rereading it because it's just so comforting to me, and it's one of the best fics that I think the Community fandom has to offer.
I guess I never, because like when I watch it, it's an ensemble thing. I never think of like a pairing I like. I like Abed and Troy together, but not in a romantic way.
Yeah.
I never liked Jeff and Annie together.
Yeah.
I liked Jeff and Britta, but only because like it was the default. But
Right.
like, yeah, I never like pictured a romantic pairing between anyone in that group, really.
Me neither, and so that's why it's not my go-to fandom by any means.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I honestly think I was just doing the thing that I normally do
Where you're
with
surfing?
anything that I watch new. I will look it up and be like, I wonder what the fanfic's like. And I think I saw that one, and that was how I was like, oh shit, this is an interesting way of thinking about the relationship between these three people, and so that hooked me. But yeah, there's a lot of Jeff and Annie, but that's never been super
It always kind of
interesting to
made me. I felt yucky about it because of the Christmas episode where she sings the song.
Yeah,
We try not
Teach
to
me-
sexualize her.
Teach me how to understand Christmas, and
Teach me how to understand Christmas.
And I remember singing that to a partner I had, like as a
Oh.
joke, and he was like, "Stop. I don't
yeah,
like it,
even
stop."
as a joke.
Do I
It's
trim
not-
the tree or the deer?
Yeah, I hate it so much. It's so cringy.
It's meant to be.
Oy vey.
You had the proper reaction to that scene. Anyway, Wounded Soldier.
Oh, Wounded Soldier. Drugs. Annie. Wounded Soldier. What comes to mind? I know you just said like Hunger Games and stuff, but does anything else come to mind when you think of the trope Wounded Soldier?
Like,
Oh,
are there
I cannot
elements?
say it.
Are there elements of it that you would say this has to be present for?
Yeah, I mean,
for
I
this?
think like obviously like the caretaking is such a big aspect of it, and
Yeah.
that's probably a part of too why I like this trope is that one of my like love languages that I use to express my like love is through like acts of service.
Yeah.
So I'm very much like a caretaker, very much like you're sick, let me take care of you. I'm making soup. I'm
Right.
like blah 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 blah. So like for me, I'm like, yeah, I love that trope because I'm like, I can see myself in that.
Yeah.
So, that's probably a part of it as well.
That's
Wait.
definitely a part of it that I really like too.
Can I clarify? Do you want to be? Are you both ways? Do you want to give acts of service and receive acts of service? Like, do you want to be the wounded soldier, or you want to be the nurse?
I want to be the nurse because, and that is, I do love. If you don't know, I'm gonna quick tangent to hop on my soapbox, but
The amount of head bobbing and
I'm waving my finger.
Wish you could see it, you guys.
you could listen to me.
I look like a bobblehead. No, but people don't know this a lot about like your love languages because everybody's like, oh, look up your 5 love languages, like know what you are. But you have different ones that you receive through and different ones that you give through like more efficiently, and not everybody knows that. So you find out which ones that, like you receive and which ones you give through.
I realized that, like, I think within the last couple of years that the ones I receive are different.
Yeah.
I always kind of just assumed it was the same. I just
Yeah, a lot
want, I
of
just
people
want
do.
love. I just want love. But yeah, so I wanted to clarify which one you preferred.
No, yeah, I'm the nurse. I'm the caretaker. I'm like, let me take care. Acts of service for me, it's nice. It's nice to be taken care of, certainly, but it's not one of my like big ones.
I'm not good at
or,
being
like,
taken
receiving.
care of. I don't. It takes me a minute. Even Keenan, who I've been with for many years, he is my husband. I'm like, I'll do it myself. I'm fine, and he has to kind of like wrangle me.
Yeah.
But I love being the nurse. Like I love taking care of somebody that I care about. Like I love being that person.
Yeah.
Like you guys were at my New Year's party. Like that was.
Yeah.
Every time I host something, it's me being like, let me take care of my friends.
And what an excellent host she was,
Thank you.
audience. I just
Thank
need to let
Don't
you know,
fucking
hey, audience,
brown
need to
nose
just let
her.
you
I
know,
mean,
let
it was
you know.
inspired by Community. This is the through line because we watched the Blanket Fort episode, and we were like, what if because we were talking about wanting to throw a New Year's party, but not wanting it to be like super
party?
Yeah, not no pressure. And we were like, what if we just did like a pajama party?
Yeah.
And that's
That
how
was
it was
so
born.
fun. That was a really fun one.
I thank you. I was very proud.
Can I ask you though,
Yeah.
before we move on, what is the one you like to receive? What's the love language you like to receive?
Ooh, okay. Well, so I give.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I give acts of service, and then I like to receive like physical touch is big for me. That's a giving and receiving. That one works both ways.
Yeah.
I think because it's physical touch, and by giving it, I'm also receiving.
Yeah,
it.
you're also yeah.
I like a good like quality time. I think is another big one for me.
Yeah, me too.
Reception wise, yeah.
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 I think those are kind of my
think those are
top
good.
2 receiving. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I like took the
Looked
test
up the
and
test.
looked at my results. So I'm trying to like remember because I know like I have a top 3 of like
Yeah.
here's
And
my 1,
it
2,
can
3
also
of giving,
change
one-
as we get older,
Yeah.
go in different relationships. But yeah, that's
Quality
totally
time is definitely the big receiving one for me.
Yeah.
Like it's quality time, and I think it was, oh God, words of affirmation. I think.
Yeah.
But then giving, it's definitely acts of service. I am not good at giving words of affirmation. I don't know what to do.
I've been in that problem before where it's like you just don't say it enough. I'm like I'm sorry. I'm saying it in other ways.
I'm demonstrating it by making you dinner. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember to say it with my words, but I forget.
Yeah.
I think I need to receive. It has to be either or physical touch or words of affirmation because I can identify that's how you feel towards me, but I need one or the other strongly.
You need like the reassurance of that.
I need the reassurance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think those are the top one. What else is there? There's acts of service, quality time. I like quality time. I don't know. I think
Acts of service, quality time,
Gift
words of
giving.
affirmation. Gift
gift
giving.
yeah, I think I love giving gifts to people.
I feel like gift giving I've always had a
Yeah.
problem with because gift giving feels like acts of service to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they're very similar.
Yeah, but I love the idea of like. It actually stresses me out when I can't. Like, we have a friend whose birthday is coming up. Fuck it. We have Sean, season 1 guest, her birthday's coming up. I could not think of something to give her for the longest time. And in my head, I was like, this means I'm a bad friend. And I don't pay attention to her. And I was like, I know that's not true. I'm a good
but the
friend.
thought comes
Yeah.
in.
I think I'm a good friend.
The shirt you're wearing was a gift from me to you.
That's true.
Yeah.
To prove that I'm a good friend, I wore this shirt. Yeah, no. So that's right. And then I found something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it stresses me out. But it's just because I like to have someone know that I've thought about them and like have put thought and
Right.
effort into something, and that it's something that I associate with them. It's a whole thing. But
Yeah. So
Wounded Soldier.
So Wounded Soldier. There isn't a tag on AO3 for Wounded Soldier. So I had to get a little creative with mine.
Yeah.
There was like injury. and like
Yeah.
doctor. I looked at like doctor patient. I looked at injury. I looked at hurt/comfort, which is a very popular tag, and then tried to narrow down from there. But what I ended up doing is remembering one of my favorite fics that has an element of this and going with that, because the tags just weren't doing it for me.
Sure.
So
Well, I will say there's not like a full clear definition, there's not a Webster's definition, maybe there is, I don't know, but of wounded soldier. But what I could
isn't.
cobble together was like it's a book or a story in which some sort of military person is wounded. That's like the literal interpretation of the term wounded soldier. A usual theme, so it doesn't have to be a military person. It can be a soldier, like a soldier in the mafia. It can be a soldier like in the war on drugs or something. But a usual, which we do not support in this podcast.
I got stabbed by a heroin spoon.
The vape was sharp. A usual theme is a search for identity or vocation in light of an injury. So that can, it's the story is usually about a person who has been injured either physically or mentally, and how they either find themselves again or learn to live with it, or something of
that's
like
the journey.
They mend the brokenness within somehow.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about like mental and like emotional like wounds as well being a part of this.
There's a lot of PTSD fics.
Tons.
Is Beauty and the Beast technically wounded soldier?
Yes, because there's that when she like bandages him after the wolf attack.
Oh wow.
Also, Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Well, amongst other things,
that too.
For sure.
But something that I thought of, and I think I just heard it in like a TV show or something, Florence Nightingale syndrome can go along with this, which is when you fall, like a nurse, somebody who is nursing someone falls in love with the person they are taking care of. And so that could be argued that a lot of these are Florence Nightingale syndrome people.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
For Florence Nightingale syndrome, I so often think of like a coma patient is usually where it's like
the one
taking care
Arrested
of
Development.
Yes, exactly.
You can make it through, and then they wake up, and he's like, "How dare you, faker!" And then they slap.
Right.
Yeah. But I also thought of just some I looked up examples because I think we all know movies or TV shows in which this is a thing, but like The English Patient, Oscar nominated?
Oh, winning, I think.
Winning.
Yeah, I think Ray Fiennes won.
Yeah, is a big one. Gone with the Wind is one. And The Notebook is technically one. She's a nurse. The guy
that she's engaged to. Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some big like things that people have definitely. Someone has seen one of them or knows of one of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those are some examples. Anything else on the wounded soldier trope?
No, I'm trying to think, like, some of the fanfics that I've read, like, thinking about it in, like, the fandom capacity. Like, we've already talked about Community. We've already talked about the Hunger Games. Another big one is Sherlock. There's a lot of wounded soldier fics in Sherlock because John Watson was a soldier in, especially if you're looking at BBC Sherlock, they talk about his PTSD and that sort of thing. There's a really well-known fic called 221 Bravo Baker that I almost used, but Wounded Soldier was not enough of a thing in it.
Gotcha.
But like a lot of fics in that space also dig into the soldier thing a lot. So yeah, I feel like even though it's not a universally acknowledged trope, it's definitely a thing that comes up a lot.
For sure.
So I, again, if you're just like tuning in somehow, I read the Kindle Unlimiteds. Jessica reads the fan fictions.
Hey, if you started at season 2, go back and listen to season 1. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Like, if you're just tuning in because Will is our guest, like, that's so sweet. But go back to fucking season 1. How dare you?
Sean is great, too.
Sean is great. Hi,
Probably
Sean.
better.
So for Wounded Soldier, there's a ton of military themed Kindle Unlimiteds. So I just went very traditional, and I went physical, a literal wounded soldier.
Okay.
Because again, there's my first example, what I just said a few minutes ago, was like a mafia soldier. They call them soldiers, you know. So I was like, I could pick something like that. But I went a literal soldier. So I picked Embattled Hearts by J.M. Madden. Ooh. It is 222 pages, and it came out December 13th, 2013. So it's an older one. It's an older one.
Yeah.
The main characters are Shannon and John, and buckle in because this is a dramatic book.
Oh yeah, that is something that we haven't really talked about. But Wounded Soldier, I think, is full of angst.
Oh, it's
yeah.
so
very
dramatic.
dramatic and angsty.
I did not see. I mean, I didn't see some of the things coming. Like I don't read a lot of military stories.
Sure.
I have in the past, but it's just been here or there. It's been like the one I think of is Dear John, the Nicholas Sparks book.
Yeah.
So, it's always like a slow burn. It's like someone falls in love with a soldier, but they have to go back to war and blah, blah, blah. So this was not that. And this was a lot more dramatic than I thought. And I kind of loved it. And I ended up reading the next 2 books in the series.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There's
Okay.
5 total. And I stopped because I was like, too much now. So getting right into it. Bing, bang, boom. Shannon. She's messy. She is 5'1", petite, curvy, brunette, curly hair. Maybe looks like me. I don't know.
Who's to say?
Who's to say? But I did just talk about myself. Has 2. It starts out. They live in Colorado, and she cannot get to work because she has 2 flat tires. And her neighbor Lisa sees this. Lisa is a nurse. She works night shifts. She picks her up, drives her to the garage. And we hear about it starts off in the middle. I thought I missed something, but this is how it starts off. Oh. Shannon says that she's like, this is weird. 2 flat tires at once. Like I saw tracks in my driveway last week because it's been snowing because it's Colorado.
Did a bear slash her tires?
Car tracks. She saw car tracks.
Got it.
That were not hers.
Makes more sense. There we go.
I'm so sorry. I should have clarified. But and she's just a little suspicious, and we're like, okay, I guess that is a bunch of stuff at first. But as a reader, I was like, why are you? I wouldn't have even thought of that. But
right.
We learned that she is late to her job, and she works at a security/detective agency called LNF Lost and Found Investigative Services in Denver. This is a dual POV, by the way. So then we go to John. He's a veteran. He was a Marine, and he is in a wheelchair. When he did stand, he was at 6'3". He was a big guy. He's still very muscular, and he works at the agency and has a big old crush on Shannon. And he feels very self-conscious about his injury, but Shannon always seems to make him feel normal. And we learn that this investigative service agency is run, created, and staffed by all wounded veterans.
Okay.
Whether it be PTSD or physical. Okay. So we meet a whole host of characters. Duncan and Chad are the other 2 bosses with John. They have all created this agency. Zeke and Harper are other soldiers that we learn about.
The names are always insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but John and Shannon are pretty normal.
John and Shannon are normal, but their friends are always like Zachariah and Esther.
I will say book 2 is about Zeke, fun fact.
Okay.
But and this is a classic Kindle Unlimited where they set up the next couple of books. You can tell that this person's about to get their own story.
Yeah.
Go down the chain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he's self-conscious about his injury, yada yada yada. He's just in a wheelchair, and he does the tech stuff. He works behind a desk because he can't do it. But other people have amputated hands, or they were in they're very burned. So the list of injuries range is what I'm trying to say. Roger is another wounded vet, and he has a bionic hand. Fun fact. Cool. And him and Shannon are BFF, and John hates this. He sees them in the break room all the time, and he's like, fuck that guy. So we just learned that they kind of flirt a lot. We learn about another soldier, Jennings, who came in for a second-round interview, and he gives Shannon, who is the front desk person, basically, a really bad vibe. And he presumably, we don't understand, does not get the job. We then learn that all the people that apply need to pass rigorous mental health evaluations.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, so he did not pass. He gives her a bad vibe. That's kind of all we hear about. So then Shannon and John flirt a little, and she goes home, and she pulls into her garage, and she sees a Pepsi can in her garbage.
She doesn't drink Pepsi.
She does not drink Pepsi. And she checked. I think the exact quote was I only drink Diet Pepsi. This is, and it's and
it's not even that's not my brand. It's wait.
Well,
too many
that's what I thought. I was oh, she's a Coke gal, and it's no, I only drink Diet. I was damn. Okay. And apparently it's placed on top, vertically on top of the garbage. So it was
menacing Pepsi.
It's a menacing Pepsi can.
Yeah, I'm
so she checks the entire house. She lives alone. and she gets like really scared. She tries to find her gun. She owns a gun, and somehow and she says, "It can't be Mike. He's still in jail."
Oh no.
Ooh.
Oh no.
So we don't know, and that's as a reader. I'm telling you the sequence
Some
of events.
texture.
Yeah. Wow.
So then John calls her, and they have never talked. John is also known as like the grumpy person around the office. He's just like, but the only person that makes him smile is Shannon. But he calls her and he's like, "Hey, you just kind of seemed off today. I just wanted to make sure you're okay." And she goes, and he's like, "What? I'm coming over." So he only lives a couple of blocks away. How did that happen? And he comes over, he searches the house, and he learns about other weird things that have been happening, a la the 2 flat tires, the bear tracks in the driveway. And then that's when we, the reader, and John learn about Michael Grabowski, who stalked Shannon in college in Ohio.
All I'm thinking about is Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Mike Grabowski.
We learned about Mike Grabowski. And they went on like 2 dates, and then he started like crazy stalking her to a point where he got put in prison. She is unsure if he's still there, but he should be there for 2 more years. And so John, of course, who works for this service agency, says, "You know what, we'll fix this for you." And she's like, "Okay, well, why don't you stay for dinner?" He's like, "I guess." So he stays for dinner, and then he ends up staking out her house for 2 nights. He thinks he's being sneaky, but she immediately is like, "Why is John outside of my apartment? Like, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
She knows the whole time and finally tells him on the second night to come in, and he stays on the couch. And we learn that he was an orphan, and that, not a magical orphan, sorry, but an orphan. And that she has a brother and a sister. And it was remarked upon in one of John's chapters that her house is wheelchair accessible.
Yeah, I was wondering when you were saying he searched the house. I was like, really?
It's ranch style. There were ramps up to it, blah, blah.
Got it.
So we learned she has a brother and a sister, and that her brother, who's like a couple years younger than her, ended up getting shot and paralyzed while saving her from Mike Grabowski.
Oh.
Yes, there was like a standoff, and he got shot in the spine or something.
Damn.
And so now he's in a wheelchair, hence why her house is accessible to him.
Got it.
So then we learned that a huge snowstorm is coming in Colorado. And John's like, "Cool, I'm still staying here."
Are they going to get snowed in?
They're gonna get snowed in.
Look at that. Forced
Tropes on
proximity.
tropes on tropes.
Tropes. So he's now sleeping over indefinitely until things get resolved.
Right.
So they go out and they get supplies. You know, they get like water gallons and food and whatever. But Roger, the bionic hand man, comes over to help set up some like cameras around and things like that. And Roger knows that Shannon also likes John. Roger's kind of like gay best friend,
All right,
but I don't
got
think
it.
he's gay, but that's like the
Sure,
vibe.
yeah.
That's the trope.
Yes, that's the trope. And John gets super jealous because he doesn't understand their relationship. So we just there's a lot of tension right there. And then it turns out we learned that the Pepsi can, the menacing Pepsi can, was taken in for Prince. And not the singer, the finger. And
He was still alive in 2013.
he was still R.I.P. And it turns out Mike Grabowski's prints are on the Pepsi can. But he is still in jail. And I typed, "What?" Big question mark, because I was like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
So it's the first night of the storm. Shannon wakes up at 3 a.m. and finds John awake too. He's been sleeping on the couch. He does not want to go into he doesn't want to go into the guest room, and he has a whole like tech thing set up out there. She goes out and they start kind of talking. They talk about John's past, about him being an orphan. He might have had a little brother. He doesn't know. But they talk about how he got injured and it was a car explosion in Afghanistan.
What if his little brother is Mike?
It's
Bum,
not.
bum,
It's
bum.
not.
Damn
We think his name is like Jesse or something. That's
Fine.
what it says.
Okay.
And then Shannon falls asleep. And this is how I kind of like imagined it, that he's kind of like lounging on the couch because that's how he had to lay.
Sure, right.
And she's like sitting on the ground. And so John like she falls asleep. John like pulls her up.
Yeah.
Like onto the couch.
Got that arm
And
strength.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like apparently super strong. And like cuddles her. And then they sleep together on the couch.
Cute.
So the next morning they both wake up and she feels his erection. And she says, and I wrote this down. So like there's definitely been some flirting, but that's it, right?
Sure.
Like
Right.
So she says, "I was worried you couldn't do that."
Oh.
And then the next quote is that like, and he practically preened. And then they got ready for work. That was it. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
worried you couldn't
that's
do
a
that. Oh, well, I can. Okay, well, I'm gonna go in the shower. Like
yeah,
that's it.
my penis is functioning.
Yeah, not to brag, but so I was just like,
Wow, okay,
I
cool.
literally wrote, and that was it? Question mark. So the snow wasn't as bad. They go into work at LNF, and she gets interviewed by the other detectives to have like an official case, like in the books, and they tell her to make it extra official and file a police report.
Yeah.
So Detective Jimmy Wilkins comes in, and John sits on the interview, and Jimmy is just blatantly hitting on her.
Fucking Jimmy.
While John is sitting there like so like steaming. But it's like enough to make her feel uncomfortable, and she's like, I kind of want to report him, but I don't know. Like, this is weird, blah, blah, blah. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Gotcha.
Then carpool home because John is still staying over, and on the way home, Shannon admits that she likes John, and John is like, oh, and that leads to I put this as sexy scene number 1 because I didn't know how sexy this book was going to be. So I just call it the car kiss, and it's like a tongues battling for dominance kiss kind of moment, which I was like, okay. And then that was it. So I was like, all right,
That's
a little tease.
yeah.
So
Okay.
Also not my favorite kind of like tongue kiss. The battling
For dominance
one,
kiss. That's a lot.
and it was their first kiss
Yeah.
in a car.
Usually, I feel like that type of kiss happens in fics where there's like a lot of buildup.
Yeah.
But it
And-
doesn't sound like that was the case for this one.
And I feel like it has to be a lot of buildup in the like literally leading up to it, not like
right,
days
like they're
of tension.
fighting
Yeah.
and arguing, and then they crash together or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, I love a crashing kiss. I
Yes.
think I've said that in multiple episodes.
Ben
of this.
Oxher was horrified
Oh,
by
no.
it, by the idea of a crashing kiss.
I'm sorry, but that scene needed a crashing kiss.
Yes,
I-
it
Thank
did.
you.
There's no other kiss
Do you hear
that
that, Ben
would work.
Oxher?
Hey, I'm
You're getting
calling
called
Ben
out.
Oxher
Our
right
regular
now.
listener, Ben Oxher.
Yeah. So they get home and they kind of like fall into a routine, like a normal after work thing. Like she makes them dinner, they cuddle on the couch while they watch Jeopardy, and they are talking. And he tells her, he's like, "Listen, you know I'm never gonna walk again, and so I don't know if I'm the person to I can make you happy.
Okay.
Because like I have this injury, da da da. I know we just kissed. I know you felt my erection, but like I'm just letting it." And she's like, "Well, I'm optimistic," and he's like, "Well." No, like I'm
Like,
never
yeah,
gonna
what-
walk.
Yeah.
again.
What, are you optimistic about me making you happy or about me walking?
Right.
Walking.
Oh.
To which I was like, maybe you should listen to the person who's been to the doctor.
Does she
I don't
give
know.
any reasoning about why
It's-
she's optimistic?
Well, it's written as like she's
Is it a
very
God
hopeful.
thing?
No, not a
Okay.
God thing. It's like there's always advances in medicine and this, and I was like, okay, I get that, but like,
Plus, we haven't had sex yet.
Right.
I was just
Yeah.
like, this feels out of order. Like you should be like further along before you tell him that. And I will also say I have been watching a lot of Friday Night Lights, and if you've watched that show, you know that there's also someone in a wheelchair in that, and so maybe I'm just feeling a lot of feelings because of that. But so I'm just gonna put that out there at those Friday Night Lights fans. We gotta talk about that. There's like a whiteout storm that happens that night, and the power goes out, and he does a sweep of the place, and she's freaking out, and he kisses her to calm her down, and but then he gets really in his head. And that's a thing that happens a few times where he's like, I can't do this, I'm in a wheelchair. Like that's what he says, like in his head a lot. So, and as a reader, I just get really frustrated because I'm like, she's clearly like down for the count, like
Right.
that actually
Down to clown.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not the right term.
Yeah.
She's
but
out.
he's
out.
She's
out
tired.
cold.
right. But he's super. He's insecure about his.
He's very
injury
insecure,
and,
yes.
And yeah.
And that's it. And she keeps saying like, it's okay. Like I accept you as this. And he's like, no, I'm not ready yet. So that keeps
Also
happening.
fair.
Also fair.
Yep.
The next morning, they're getting ready to go to work, and she opens the back door and she finds a dead dog on the back of her porch.
Fuck off. What?
And John says, okay, we're going to bring in another member who has more, who's more active than I am. And he brings in Harper, who's a very scary individual, but he's a good guy. But he's like very haunted marine, like shadows under his eyes all the time, being like,
And they're bringing him in for protection.
Yeah, they're bringing him as an extra person.
Got it. Okay.
So there's always going to be 2 guards there,
So he's
basically.
some more muscle. For
yeah.
More muscle. John and Shannon then have a moment. She kind of like crawls into his lap and in her bedroom, and she's like, "I'll do whatever you're comfortable with." And he's like, "I don't know, I feel weird." And he leaves the bedroom, and Harper's out there, And they've put cameras like everywhere in the house, including her bedroom. So he clearly just saw that moment. And he's like, hey, the camera's down in the bedroom if you want to go
Wink.
go make sure she's
That's a
okay.
good friend. That's a good friend,
And also
Harper.
like get some
yeah.
sleep. And I was like, yes. Like I was
Nice,
like, what a
Harper.
good
Oh,
wingman.
yeah.
So he goes, and this leads to sexy scene number 2, and which I called "The Parts That Matter Work Just Fine." And they have like a ton of sex, and I believe it's all from Shannon's point of view, and multiple times she's like, he's an excellent lover, he's an amazing lover. And which is like great, good for her, good for him. I don't think he got his injury, I believe they say 5 years prior, and I don't think he had slept with someone or like right after he slept with someone, like right after he got injured, and like that was it. So I was like, wow, he had that all that
Getting in
stamina.
there.
Yeah. I was thinking, John knows Harper is right outside.
Oh yeah.
Like
The camera's down, but he
they're
can
having
hear
all
everything.
the
the
sex.
camera's down, but and they were loud.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
She also knows that Harper's there.
Yeah.
Like I get like when you're in the moment, but I don't think I've ever been that.
You couldn't have done like a full night of loud sex knowing
You couldn't have put a
your
pillow over your
coworkers were
mouth.
right.
You couldn't have. You
Right.
couldn't have just. I don't know, just anything. Just like, you know what? Have some decency for the other person
Stealth
in your
vibes
house.
can be hot. I'm saying it right here. Stealth vibes can be
Stealth
hot.
vibes are very hot. I
Stealth vibes are
find
hot.
them very hot. So I'm looking at you, Shannon. Rude to Harper. John wakes up in the middle of the night, and he and Harper get a bad feeling. It turns out someone was outside watching the house, and they see that there was a boot impression in the fresh snow.
Jesus Christ.
They
All
know
the
it was.
snow.
They know it was a military
Mike
boot.
Wazowski.
It's a Bates brand boot, which I guess is like police military issued
Sure, army
shoe.
surplus.
Yeah, army surplus. So Shannon wakes up and she sees that she got texts while she was having sex from her stalker. Her stalker was like, "I can't believe you're riding that guy," or so, it was like shit like that. And she's like, "Oh my god!" So she goes into work. She's very stressed. They track the phone that's texting Shannon, and it turns out it belongs to a convict who has been in prison for like a month. So they're like, okay, so someone stole this guy's phone, which is super weird. And it was dropped off after the phone was used to text her back into police evidence. So they're now trying to find out who dropped off the phone that belongs to a convict. Does that make
Right,
sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's somebody on the inside.
There's so
Exactly.
much. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this level of mystery.
Yeah,
with
this is a lot of
Right?
mystery
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on.
So Harper, John, and Shannon head back to her house after work, but they don't go in because John immediately sees, even though there's snow, he sees that there are tire spikes in the driveway.
That's how she got
And
those flats.
they immediately drive away. They go back to the office, and especially because John's also in a wheelchair, so they're like, okay, so it not only would have incapacitated the vehicle, but John.
Yeah.
Or not incapacitated, but you know what I mean. And they go back to the office, and they run into Jennings, the guy who lost the job.
Right.
He is hanging out in the lobby, and as soon as he sees Shannon, he like grabs her. So they stay at the office. The other two they
Yeah.
you know,
Get off of her.
yeah, they get Jennings into custody basically, and he goes to the police station, and they're like, "We're trying to figure out why he grabbed you, but we don't think he was the guy, but there's something going on with him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they stay at the office. They find out Lisa, the neighbor, the nurse, is the one who dropped off the phone at the police station. And then I said, "Okay, everything just went off the rails."
The plot
This is like a whole
thickens.
conspiracy.
I know.
No.
I just like it when I forget what I've written, and I just literally wrote, "Okay, everything went off the rails." Like, what? So Duncan, one of the bosses, Shannon and John and Harper, they all go to Shannon's house, and they call Lisa over, the neighbor.
Right.
And they explain what's happening, and Lisa says that her ex, her like on again, off again boyfriend, asked her to drop this phone off. They then realized Jimmy Wilkins, aka the creepy police detective,
Yeah.
is her on again, off again boyfriend.
Wow.
Okay. All
So,
right.
oh, trust me, you do not know what's about to happen. So,
I don't think I do.
Truly no.
No.
in this moment, someone starts shooting up the house.
What?
So John,
inside
they're
of it?
inside Shannon's house. Someone starts shooting up. John immediately is like,
Here we go.
"Wah," pushes her down.
Hell yeah, John.
And he's
Yeah.
like, take Lisa, go to your bedroom and barricade the door. So Will is just acting out the scene as I talk. So they barricade the door. Shannon and Lisa's freaking out. Shannon puts her dresser against the door
Of the bedroom?
of her bedroom. It's
Okay.
just them. Looks up and feels something in her neck. Lisa has drugged Shannon and ties her up and kidnaps her out the window, out her bedroom window.
No.
What?
So then, okay, so I go, okay, so Lisa and Jimmy are together, but Lisa wants to kill Shannon because Michael Grabowski will pay attention to her then, ... while he's still in prison. Okay, Lisa took care of him as a prison nurse, and Jimmy is Michael's brother.
Are these your theories?
These are all the notes I just took, because
It's
I'm reading
Jimmy
this and going,
Grabowski in
Jimmy
real life?
Grabowski.
Oh my.
So Jimmy and Michael are brothers. Michael's still in prison. He's still obsessed with Shannon. Lisa.
So is that why, was it Jimmy's fingerprints on the Pepsi
No.
can?
Lisa was a nurse at the prison that housed Michael
In Ohio.
and she fell in love with him a la Florence Nightingale syndrome.
Wow.
When he got shivved, apparently.
Whoa.
Wow.
So they're both doing this for
This is
Michael.
a double wounded
It's
soldier.
a double wounded. So I got confused because I was like, okay, Jimmy says like, oh, I love it when you're like this. And he kisses Lisa. So
Yeah.
they're together.
Yeah.
Sure.
Lisa is doing this. She sets up a camera and records this whole thing, talking to the camera, saying how Shannon has chosen somebody who's quote unquote like a cripple over Michael, a fine standing gentleman, and that she's going to take care of Shannon so that take her out so that Michael will now love Lisa. So we're all hearing this from Shannon's point of view, who is
Right.
tied up
Yeah.
and she's cold, so she has a blanket over her, realizes that they didn't search her. She still has a gun. She has an ankle
Oh, she's
holster.
strapped.
And she's strapped because John told her to get strapped.
Oh my God.
So
Is she front cuffed or back
she's
cuffed?
front cuffed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
This is
so
her moment.
This is her
Damn.
moment. So so I go, okay, so they're gonna kill her, but I'm confused because I was like, so are they in a throuple?
Maybe.
Or does Jimmy,
No,
or
I
is
think
Jimmy
Lisa's
fine?
using Jimmy.
But it's,
Yeah.
but like he knows that.
He knows it?
Yeah, she's saying it.
Maybe
They're all
he's
together.
maybe he's into it.
Maybe
like
he-
maybe this.
maybe
is
he's
a whole,
he likes being cuckolded.
could be.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
A brother cuckold.
A brother couple. So, Jimmy is about to get. He comes towards her, and finally, that's when Shannon makes her move. She reaches for her gun, shoots Jimmy. He dies, but Lisa is like on her, and she has like a syringe. She's gonna like poison her
Dose her
basically.
in, yeah.
Wow.
And she can't get she's still cuffed, and she can't get her like gun in the right position. And that's when, out of nowhere, Jennings, the guy who grabbed her in the lobby,
Whoa.
tackles Lisa and saves Shannon.
Where did Jennings come from?
Meanwhile, all the guys, once they realized that Lisa took Shannon, went into like mode. Like they were tracking her and
Right,
stuff.
right.
They had a whole operation set up. They had a sniper, and they saw that Jimmy and Lisa were about to kill her. So as Jennings tackles Lisa, they ended up shooting Lisa as well, and they both died.
Jennings
All the-
and Lisa? Or
No,
Jimmy and Lisa?
Jimmy and Lisa.
Okay.
Jennings,
all right.
I think, just got hit in the head or something. So bad guys are dead, and then John comes in. He's been going through. Oh, they were in a warehouse, by the way. And
Got
they
it.
go, and his
clear the
tires
warehouse.
get all this glass in it. So then his hands get all this glass in it, and he takes Shannon home. And John gets his hands all cut up. So then Shannon's like, "I'm gonna take care of you," and he's like, "You were just about killed. Like I'm gonna
Is this
take
a
care."
triple wounded
This
soldier?
is a triple wounded
Is.
soldier.
Wow.
So then this leads to number 3, which I call "Is that glass in your pants, or are you happy to see me?"
Great.
In
Great.
which
Great.
she takes out the glass from both the wheels of his wheelchair and his hands.
Cute.
And they have tender, sweet love, which she keeps saying he is the best she's ever had. What an ego boost. Then he gets all moody again. And he's like, I still can't do this. Then we learn, we were like, wait, let's wrap up that Jennings thing.
Yeah.
We learned that he had a fiance that passed away that looks just like Shannon. So he
so
wanted
that's
to
why he was being
save.
weird.
Yeah, that's why he's being weird. He wanted to save Shannon.
Oh.
And he's just looking out for her. Then John is like, wow, you know what? Life is short. I actually do love you, Shannon. Shannon's like, oh, I do love you. And
I'm sorry, I can't do this. I could never make you happy. Hey, you know Jennings.
You know,
he had his wife that
Jennings
died.
was in love once.
You know, Jennings.
Damn, you're right. Come
Shit,
here, Shannon.
Shit, you're right. And so then he finally accepts that that she's going to take care of him sometimes, and that he's going to take care of her sometimes.
Wow.
And that's Embattled Hearts.
partnership.
So we like to do a little like wrap up of the book afterwards.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I could not think. We have kind of we came up with like a list of wrap ups that we like to do after
Sure.
our stories,
Yeah.
and all of them I was just like, not that I hated this story because I liked it, but I was like, none of these games work. So I
Right.
decided to do a top 3 list.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I chose the top 3 what the fuck moments.
Great.
Starting with 3. I
Okay.
said, well, I'm going to also say if you want to think of some what the fuck moments as well, you can do that. But I'll say mine first. And if
Yeah.
you have any that I've forgotten from my synopsis, you can add them.
Sure. Sure.
You as well, Jessica.
Okay.
Number 3, when they cuddled and the first thing she said to him in the morning was, I was worried that you couldn't do that in relation to his erection.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was just like, yup.
Yep.
And then they went to work. Because what the hell?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You didn't even kiss. And okay. Number 2, what the fuck moment was, I'm optimistic you can walk one day.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
In which
that was
they had not even been intimate. They had just, I think, shared one kiss.
Yeah.
And she was already like, well, I think you're wrong about your condition. And I was like, that just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
like
no,
that.
no, no.
Yeah. No.
And while there are medical advancements every day, maybe listen to the person who's gotten all the advice
Yeah.
from the doctors.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah.
Also, when somebody's like, the way I am, you wouldn't be happy with me. You don't go, oh, I think you could change.
Right.
I think it's fine. I think I'll change you.
Yeah.
I'm going to hope that you'll change.
That's not the right.
I'm
That's not the right vibe.
And the number 1 what the fuck moment for me was when I learned that Lisa was in love with Michael but was dating his brother, because I still don't understand it.
I don't understand it either.
And I guess now that we've talked about it, it's a brother cuckold, but Jimmy is clearly fine with being in love with a woman who's never going to love him because she loves his brother instead. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see it if she hadn't told Jimmy that, like, I'm using you to
Right.
forward my plans to take care of Shannon to get at your brother.
But she literally said it
But she-
to camera.
Yeah. Well, and what's weird is that, like, because it's all from Shannon's perspective, Shannon's thinking the same thing. She's like, wait, so she's dating Jimmy, but she wants Michael's attention.
And they just
but
never resolve it.
Because everyone dies. You can't resolve it when everyone
yeah,
dies.
no. I don't get Jimmy's motivations.
Yeah, no.
Lisa, I guess, yeah.
Sure.
You're obsessed with
Jimmy
this guy.
does says at
You'll
one
use
point,
anyone.
he's like, Michael should have never gone to jail. Like, you lied about him. He's not a stalker. So, like, I get that it's like revenge
protecting
for
his brother's reputation.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
like
forgot
revenge.
that, like, Shannon is responsible for his brother being jailed. So for him, it's just all about, he's using Lisa to get revenge. Lisa's using him also to
get revenge?
Right.
But in
Yeah.
order to get his brother's attention. And he's like, I'm fine with that.
So
Interesting.
that was Embattled Hearts by J.M. Madden.
Damn.
Wow.
I clearly liked it because I read the next 2 in the series.
Yeah.
Zeke
Yeah.
is number 2.
Are the next 2 as like mysterious? Like, do they both have kind of whodunits?
They are not as much. No, not whodunits. I think that the problem in both of those is presented very clearly. It's more of it's just very dramatic. It's like, oh, this is about to. It's more teen drama-y in my. You know
Right.
what it feels like? It feels a little like Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
All right.
And if you haven't seen Friday Night Lights, it's on Hulu. If you want to talk to me about it, DM me. It's still on.
I'm always going through a Friday Night Lights
I just finished
journey.
season 1. I love it very much.
I can tell.
Yeah.
It's so good, you
yeah,
guys.
it's the whole thing.
But yeah, that was Embattled Hearts. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. I followed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I could.
Yeah.
With that.
It was-
with that zany.
Yes.
Yeah,
Zany
it's a whole
twists
thing.
and turns.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, so keep that in your mind. But right now we're going to talk about,
Fan fiction.
we're talking about Wounded Soldiers. If you didn't remember, it's
Enough of
Wounded
this
Soldiers.
Kindle Unlimited bullshit.
pull
Let's
this-
hear about
Dare you.
AO3.
How dare you?
Okay, so before we get into this, I just want to make a disclaimer. This is a fic from the Harry Potter fandom. J.K. Rowling is a piece of shit. We do
Fuck
not
her.
endorse her or her views or her transphobia on
And
this
we're not
podcast.
buying the wizard game.
We are not buying anything
I didn't know
to
that was a
help
thing.
her.
Don't buy the game. Don't play it.
Nope. The beautiful thing about fanfiction is she created a world that was not well fleshed out, and fanfic writers went, well, I have a playground now that I can play in, and made many, many, many works that are, I think, better than Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And
As
so
Harry Potter 4 is the book that I'm using to prop up my microphone right
yeah,
now.
yeah. But do not mistake my doing a Harry Potter fanfic as an endorsement of J.K. Rowling. It is very much not.
Yeah, she doesn't
Fuck
get
all of that.
residuals from fanfic.
No, she does not.
And you know what? If you haven't read it, go to the library. Don't buy it.
Yeah, don't buy it. And don't buy that game or whatever the hell that is.
Or go to half price books and do it.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
So anyway, it is a Harry Potter fanfic. I already kind of mentioned that this is a fanfic that I have. This would be the third or fourth time that I have read this fanfic, because there were not really many. There was not a wounded soldier tag, and I found a couple fics that were okay. But then I remembered this one, and I was like, this is a really good one, and so that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, just to get a little bit into it, it was the foundational fandom that I first started reading. Like, this is what got me into fan fiction, was reading Harry Potter fanfic in like middle school. At the time, fanfiction.net was the big host, and I didn't do a ton of research and go over there, but I can say that AO3 has 412,692 Harry Potter fanfics, and probably fanfiction.net has equal that amount.
Yeah.
142,000 of them are mature or explicit.
Yeah.
So a quarter of them are smutty.
Sexy.
What year did AO3 really become like the predominant website for this?
I want to say like 2008 or 9.
Okay.
Like, and AO3 is really cool, actually. It is a entirely fan-run, voluntary-based,
great.
Like fan fiction archive, and it is massive. It is huge, and it is incredible to me that like people just do it out of the goodness of their heart and because they believe in open source creative works in this way. And so it's not like run by a company. It's not owned by anybody. But it's just this extensive thing. But I want to say like late 2010s, or at the very least that's when I started using it.
Sure. Yeah, but it's maybe, for like the internet fanfic, it's probably over half of the time now.
Oh yeah, I would say so. And people have also started doing a thing because like, for example, a lot of like 90s stuff was on LiveJournal and DeviantArt. And those have since kind of shut down or very much like scaled back. So a lot of people are now taking those fics that they put on those platforms and putting them on AO3. And AO3 just recently allowed a feature where you can backdate your stuff. So people are backdating and going, this came out in 2013, even if I just added it this year. Yeah, it's very cool. I keep pulling down my cord. I hope I didn't just fuck up my microphone.
I think you're fine.
You sound good.
All right, cool.
You sound great.
Thank you so much.
You sound gorgeous.
You're crushing it.
Yeah. So all this to say, I might revisit the Harry Potter fandom more throughout this season because there is language and there are tropes that have been developed because the fandom is so big.
Sure.
And I find that really interesting and like talking about it. So we might be coming back here. So the fic is called Do Not Go Gentle by Senlinyu. If there were fanfic author awards, Senlinyu would probably have won all of them. They are a very well-known, prolific Harry Potter and other fanfic writer. Okay. And their stuff is some of the best that I've ever read.
Wow.
They have 52 works on AO3, and many of them are the most popular work in that pairing or in that fandom. If you look at the tags, they're just real. I would be shocked if they didn't make a living writing already under their real name. So this fic was finished March 1st, 2020. 10 chapters, 34,435 words. And it is the most popular fic for the Hermione Granger Severus Snape pairing.
What? No.
Wow.
Which is the 8th most popular pairing in the Harry Potter fandom.
Really?
Yes.
Pairing, not including like thruples or like.
Yeah. One-on-one. Like if you look at the tags and you look at like they're ranked based on the number of fics.
Okay.
Hermione and Snape come in 8th.
Wow.
Overall.
I would not have ever guessed that.
I don't know how I feel about it.
I'm going to reserve judgment until after I've heard the fic.
Great. There's a reason this one is the most popular in that tag.
Sure. Okay.
But tell me, the two of you. Well, I am assuming that you have read or seen Harry Potter.
No, yeah. I know a lot about it.
So give me like a very brief, who is Severus Snape, who is Hermione Granger, what does their world look like at the end of the series?
Okay, great. So Hermione Granger, I'm going to start there because it's a little bit easier. She is one of, if not the best friend of Harry Potter. She is one of the most gifted witches of her age. She's incredibly smart.
Yep.
She gets all sorts of allowances from the government because of how smart she is to do cool magical shit. and is just incredibly talented at charms work. And
Love how specific
She
charms
is.
specifically.
that's
not wrong.
what she's noted for is her charms are very good. And she has a very good memory charm, actually, as she completely obliterates her parents' memories of herself to go fight in a wizard war.
Yep.
Which in
to
the
protect
end,
to protect them.
to protect them, and in the end, she and her friends defeat the evil wizard Voldemort and win the soul of the wizarding world. Now, the evil wizard Voldemort, throughout his time, has put out some really nasty bigotry into the wizarding world in the name of Death Eaters, his followers. And one of those followers at a time is the potions master at Hogwarts, Severus Snape, who grew up along with the parents of Harry Potter. Had a crush on Lily Potter, Harry's mom, but of course James Potter, kind of Severus's bully from school.
Definitely
his bully.
Definitely his
Yeah.
bully from school. People will get into it over how innocent Snape was in school, but I'll leave that. I'll leave that for the fans
fanfic
to argue
writers.
about. Yes.
Yep.
But is so in love with Lily Potter that even after she marries James, or I guess isn't Lily Potter until then, but marries James, has Harry, gets killed, Severus determines to dedicate his life to protecting Harry for his love of Lily.
But also Dumbledore is the one that tells him to do that.
Yes, convinces him to do that. Dumbledore talks him into it, kind of is like, if you want to respect her memory, this is her memory embodied in
legacy.
a child. Exactly.
Legacy.
And so he joins up with the Death Eaters and kind of becomes a double agent, but for a while in the series you're not really sure how much, and then at the very end he does end up sacrificing his life to be the best double agent he can be to the cause against Voldemort.
Yeah.
Yep. And Voldemort's
helping
snake.
Harry.
Voldemort's snake bites the shit out of him.
Yeah,
and that's how he
absolutely. His Nagini,
Nagini.
just chomps on down on Snape's neck, and he barely gets one last little memory off to explain his tragic backstory to everyone. And then he dies, and at the end of the series and the war. There's the prologue later. Should we do
19 years later.
Epilogue. Excuse me.
Yes.
Do I need to include that?
No,
Is this
you're good.
pre-epilogue?
No.
Okay.
So that actually,
This is pre-epilogue.
that's perfect, and that gets me directly into the tags and setting up this fic. So. One of the tags on the fic is EWE, which is a tag specific to the Harry Potter fandom. Epilogue? What epilogue?
That's incredible.
Great.
Oh my god, I love that.
And basically a lot of fanfic, and mainly the fanfic that I read now in Harry Potter fandoms, is people going, well, J.K. Rowling kind of fucked us and didn't explore, these 18-year-old children just fought in a war, are probably very traumatized, and we didn't explore any of that. And now they're just fine. They have kids, and we're sending them off to Hogwarts.
The book was already big. They couldn't fit any more in.
Right.
So this fic is set in... Basically, fans have created this lore around immediately after the war, where they go, okay, well, we know that these people have ministry jobs. We know that they become functioning adults. They probably had an opportunity to go back to school if they wanted to. And it's accepted fanon that Ron and Harry probably immediately went into the workforce, but Hermione would have wanted to finish her 8th year. Her time in Hogwarts. Yeah. So she returns to Hogwarts, and that is the premise of this one. The other thing is, this is an AU where Snape did not die.
Got it.
He gets bitten up by Nagini, and then Fawkes the Phoenix flies down and
some
cries
sweet
on
tears.
him, and he comes back.
I thought you said fucks.
So
And then he fucks his way back to hell.
He
way
fucks
back.
a Phoenix.
Bang it in, baby.
So the other important thing to know for this is, and I'm going to get heated for a minute because Hermione was my favorite character.
Sure.
Was.
But there's a scene in Harry Potter where they are captured and they are taken to Malfoy Manor.
Yeah.
And Hermione thinks fast, and she zaps Ron and Harry's faces so they are not recognizable. They're taken down to the dungeons. The entire scene is in their POV. all they can hear is Hermione screaming and being tortured by Bellatrix Lestrange. And Bellatrix is carving the word mudblood, which is basically a racial slur for Hermione being born of non-magical parents. And so she's getting mudblood carved into her arm. She's being tortured for hours and hours. And this is all written from Harry and Ron's perspective. And then they get Hermione and they leave. And then Dobby dies getting them out. And then we just focus on Dobby dying. Yeah. No one ever talks about the fact that Hermione was horribly tortured and had one of the worst things you can call her carved into her arm for the rest of her life as a result of fighting in this war.
Isn't there like a salve you can use to get...
So another fanon thing is it is known in canon that this was a cursed dagger. Okay. So probably it is not.
No, you can't heal.
You can't heal it.
Got it.
And so this fic is interested in specifically that. So the way that the fic starts is, it was subtle at first, is the first line of this fic. First, Hermione assumes like she's really tired because of the stress from the war and she's still recovering. And then she assumes she's really tired because all the Death Eaters need to go on trial. She needs to testify. They're going through all of that. And then she assumes she's really tired because she's going back to school and she's not used to it. And then she faints on the way to class. And she wakes up in the hospital wing to Snape, who has returned as Potions Master, staring down at her, looking very irritated. And with his voice low and rasping because it has been forever damaged by the snake bite, he says, "It's killing you," while he examines her arm. And she talks about how somehow, though she hadn't even considered it, she felt strangely unsurprised. She was so tired. Everything had required effort for so long that she'd just gotten used to it. And her arm, she kind of, her inner monologue is like, yes, her arm never healed. It was always bleeding. It was constantly bleeding. And she was just bandaging it because with everything else going on, what right does she have to say, I have this cut on my arm that won't stop bleeding while people died and while people are mourning and while everybody else is injured. And so she just kind of was like, oh, this isn't anybody else's problem. I will deal with it. And she kind of is thinking about like, yeah, like Harry always was more upset that Dobby died than me getting tortured. So I'm not going to bring it up and get in everybody's way. The quote, which is devastating, is Hermione never felt as though there was any context in which it was acceptable to bring up a cut on her arm that kept bleeding. She was lucky to have just been tortured. A lot of people died.
I'm having a flashback to the Christmas episode.
Angst!
That's what I'm here for. Yes.
Oh, God.
So Snape, after a very long pause, she basically says, like, yeah, like, it's been bleeding, and yeah, I've been getting weaker, but I kind of just have been powering through. And he kind of pauses and says, listen, you know this, I am a skilled potions master, I'm a skilled person. I assume you are back here because you want to take your newts, which is their, like, final exams,
right,
and you want to finish your last year. So I assume you do not want to go seek help elsewhere. I will help try to find a cure for this if you're open to that. And she agrees because she doesn't want to leave school and she doesn't want to tell anybody else.
Yeah.
No, that's a sad place.
Take care of yourself.
She doesn't want to go to St. Mungo's. She wants to keep studying.
Bottoms all the time.
Put your mask on before you put others' masks on.
Right. So she basically starts spending all of her time in the dungeons in his laboratory while basically he silently like is running tests on her arm and taking blood and muttering and just like kind of ignoring her while he's trying to solve this problem of her arm.
Fun little parallel of like Dumbledore's hand and Hermione's arm.
Oh, yeah.
Like trying to contain the curse. And she thinks about that. She's like, I know that he's tried to do this before. Like if anybody in the school is going to be able to help me, it's probably going to be him.
Meanwhile, he's probably all like, oh, I failed at this before.
He's feeling a lot of feelings.
And Madame Pomfrey can go fuck herself? I mean, what? Guys,
Right.
she's a nurse. Well, she's a trained nurse.
She is a trained nurse, but he's like a curse breaker.
Yeah,
he's
true.
like,
That's
yeah.
Shout out to nurses.
And so she's, but in the meantime, like she's getting weaker and weaker. And one night she's leaving the dungeons and she's looking at the the staircase to get out of the dungeons and is so daunted, and she's thinking like, okay, after this staircase there's another 3 staircases to get to the tower, and then there's another 8 staircases to get to my dormitory. And she like kind of just starts crying. And once again, Snape, like, is gruff and is like, come on, and, like, grabs her by the arm and, like, carries her to the hospital wing and is like, just go to sleep here, it's fine. And is, like, the whole time, no kindness, no patience, but still, like, you're being an idiot, come go to sleep. And so, but then the headmistress, McGonagall, decides like, okay, this is ridiculous. Hogwarts is not accessible to people with disabilities.
Interesting.
So there's a room across the hall from the dungeons. Just take that room. That way you don't have to, you can still be treated and this can continue, but you're not going to have to worry about getting all the way up to Gryffindor Tower.
Wow, you can tell this is fiction because they never let you change dorm rooms that easily.
No. No paperwork involved. No.
If she gets to do it, so can I. I want to sleep down there too.
Yeah.
Look, we can't accommodate everybody's disabilities.
Right, exactly.
You know what they should do? Get an elevator.
We have to be fair.
Give her a broom. Give her a fucking broom. Fly on up.
So this essentially creates a situation where her and Snape are the only ones living in the dungeons, and she's spending all her time with him, and she's just like, this man is unpleasant. This man is like muttering and like banging around and like only focusing on this curse, and clearly he hates me. He hates this. And she goes to McGonagall and says, listen, like I don't want to impose, like we need to just stop this. Like I feel bad. Clearly he doesn't want to be doing this. And McGonagall kind of like gets a little smile on her face and she goes, all of this was his idea. Like he came to me and offered to help you. It was his idea to move you into the dungeons to better take care of you. Like he wants to he wants to help you. He doesn't hate you. And Hermione's like, what? And she's like, yeah, like I don't know if it's you or the mystery of this curse, but he is invested in this. You don't back out now. And then finally one day, Snape hands Hermione this sedative, and he's like, I think I found something that will draw out the poison and slow the curse, but it will hurt really, really badly. And he basically starts this treatment that's essentially like drawing the poison out of her. But the way that the curse works is it's kind of seeped into her entire body. And the way she describes it is this is worse than being tortured. Like she's in so much agony, she's in so much pain, and she's screaming, and he has to like physically hold her to him and like make sure, because she can't be thrashing around, but also just like to hold her still and to be like, it's okay. Big strong arms. And so this then creates a pattern where this happens and she feels way better, but it has to happen basically every week in order to buy them time. And after weeks and weeks and weeks of this, at the end, he kind of, they're having a quiet moment, and he kind of brushes the curls off of her face and like kind of sets her back to rights and picks her up and takes her to bed. And she says, do you even care really if I die? Like, am I just kind of a puzzle? And he stares at her for many, many seconds before saying, you deserve to live your life outside of the oversized, unappreciative shadow of Mr. Potter. And then leaves the room. So she just starts hanging out with him more and just like reading, or she starts helping him grade essays, and like it's still not friendly, but he tolerates her, and she feels like, okay, at least I can be useful. At least we're spending time together and I'm helping him in some way while he's helping me.
At least I'm not a burden.
At least I'm not a burden with my life-threatening injury.
She's 19 at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know how old Snape is?
At least like late 40s.
What's his
early 50s.
age gap? Got it.
Big old age gap.
Well, she's the same age as Harry, and he was in school with
Harry's parents. So at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it gets spicy because Hermione starts being like, well, this is the only man that I'm around, really. Because she thinks, she's like, all the other students don't know how to treat me because word of my thing has gotten around.
And she's got needs.
And she starts finding herself staring at his hands a lot and how strong they are and how talented he is as he like makes potions and does different things.
Deft.
I know.
Look at those fingers, those tapered fingers.
And she starts
cut that
thinking
wormwood.
about
cork
like
out.
how smart he is and how appreciative she is genuinely that he's spending all this time trying to help her. Yeah. And she finds herself kind of, the way it's phrased is like she's indulging in a small crush. And she doesn't really see any reason to not, because she's gonna die. So why not just have a small crush on her potions professor? And she finds herself convinced that like his hand lingers a little bit longer than it did before. Or like he holds her maybe a little bit longer after putting the spell on her. Okay. But she's like, oh, this is all in my head. There's no way. It's just because I have a little bit of a crush on her.
Right.
And like she falls asleep on the sofa one night while he's like casting diagnostic spells, and wakes up and he's next to her, and they've both fallen asleep on the couch. And she's like, this is nice, but it doesn't mean anything. And then one day she comes back from class to him just standing in a lab that is scrubbed clean. Like all of the potions that he was working on, all the diagnostic paperwork, everything is gone, and it's just empty. And he's kind of just standing in the middle of the room, and she's like, oh shit, he's out of ideas. I don't know what to do with this. And she goes into her room, and she starts like shaking. And he comes in and he says, I haven't given up. We need to change tactics. Like
I thought it was
work.
drawing out. I thought the thing was drawing it out of her.
That was to buy time.
Okay.
To slow the progression, but not to prevent it.
Got it.
Which is why it has to happen once a week.
Okay, because it's drawing it out, but it's not stopping it from going in.
Yes.
Got it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Out of ideas. I'm going to try putting it into.
Yeah, put it in.
Well, interesting that you say that. So he follows her into her room because she's clearly distressed, and he's like, I'm not giving up. You're not alone. Like, it's okay. We're going to just keep working on this. And she's like, you know what? Fuck it. And she kisses him.
Oh, no.
And the way it's described is he is frozen as she presses closer. And then she kind of remembers herself and starts to pull back. And then he leans forward and kisses her. And her thought is like, I had forgotten how nice it was to just kind of kiss someone and feel alive and not be worried about being sick. And this is really nice. And so they kind of keep like making out, like go to the couch, and they're like, and she's just really like enjoying this. She's like, put thoughts of the age gap aside. This is fine. I'm going to die. It's cool. And they're like, they start taking off their clothes, but then he shifts and presses against her injured arm on accident, and she screams. Oh. And he freezes and turns white as a ghost and like leaves the room.
Which is crazy because he's already super pale.
He's super pale. So like he basically loses all color. He turns transparent.
Black and white.
And then leaves. And she like, she kind of takes a minute and sits and thinks to herself, she's like, you know what? I don't regret doing that. Like, I feel good about that. I don't really give a shit. I'm going to go talk to him. So she goes out to him, and his immediate thing is like, this was a mistake. Age gap. I'm trying to help you. This is not like you're doing this because you are traumatized and you're worried about dying. And she goes, yeah, but I don't regret it. And I wanted to do that. And that was fun. She says, she looks him in the eyes and says, I want to have sex with you, and I've been thinking about it for a long time. I do not regret it. And he pulls back and kind of like is like, well, this is inappropriate. I feel weird about it. You're my student. Let's not do this. And he kind of gives her the cold shoulder for several weeks. Stops touching her unless absolutely necessary, not talking to her unless it's about her health, and she just keeps getting worse. And so eventually after like a couple weeks of this, she tells him that she no longer wants to try any new treatments. She'll see out the current one long enough to take her to the end of year exams, but then she's done. And he kind of just goes, fine, and continues on with the day. And after her next treatment, she's like crying, and she's like, well, he hates me now, so he's not going to help me get to my room. And so she tries to get up, and she kind of like spasms and starts to fall, and he catches her and gathers her to him, and
with
like,
his hands,
with his big strong arms, and sits on the couch, and he's kind of like holding her, like cradling her and like stroking her hair while she kind of cries and just like deals with everything she's been through. And then he kisses her again, and then they have sex on the couch. And it's very I love it because I feel like it's a realistically written sex scene.
Okay.
Where it's from her perspective and he's like being very slow and very tender. And she's like, this is great, but this is too slow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like this.
Speed it up.
She's like, there's too much space in between things where my mind is wandering. Like, we need to get. And so she kind of takes charge of the situation.
Good for her.
And like gets on top of him. And finally reaches a place she's like, all right, cool, this is the speed I need. And they bang. But then when they're done, they both notice that her arm has started bleeding again through the bandages. And he gets angry. He's like, I knew we shouldn't have done this so soon after you had this treatment done. Like, I should have known better. And he says, I'm so sorry. Like, I can do better. I know better than to do that. And she says, let's try again tomorrow. And she kind of...
The treatment or the sex?
The sex.
Both.
Got it.
Both. And she kind of wakes up in a state of anticipation and then goes out and basically they have sex immediately again the next morning. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there condoms in the Wizarding World?
No, but there is a contraceptive potion.
Okay.
That he happens to know how to brew.
Of course.
That's what I
He's been brewing
thought.
up spermicide for years.
Yep. This is another fanon thing where they don't get that detailed with it, but it's either a spell or a potion or both.
I mean,
in all fics.
This is a world in which canon, they would just shit themselves and magic it away. Like, they probably just pump cum and then wave the wand and it disappears. You know what I mean?
Clean up.
Yeah. But yeah, so needless to say, she's taking and I think the way that the fandom has agreed the contraceptive potion works is it's like a month long. It's like the new
it's a once a month.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
I was going to say it's a once a month potion.
Yep. So she's covered. And basically at this point, they just start having sex all the time. And the way that she describes it in her inner monologue is it is brilliant and utterly inappropriate. And her thought process is like, I'm really enjoying this. I have no intention of stopping. I am dying. I might as well have fun doing this.
Love that mind. Love that mindset.
And your life, girl.
Exactly. Do what you need to do. And she finds herself like, she's like, oh, like this is I wasn't expecting him to be so, he's like very touchy. Like he likes touching her. He's very physical.
Physical touches his ass.
It's genuinely, yes. They have like a lot of morning sex and her kind of, they talk about it.
A lot of friends that died. So.
Yup.
Sorry, bad pun.
No. And so it's going relatively well, and she feels like she's really getting to know him, and he's kind of opening up to her more, and they're just getting closer and closer. And then one day she's kind of casually talking about her plans after graduation that's coming up in a few weeks. And she starts to talk about the hospice that she's going to set up at the Burrow with the Weasleys, and he kind of like freezes up. And she's just continuing to talk. And he sort of kind of, the way to describe it, he's like drifts towards her and says too casually, I don't really understand what you're talking about. And she goes, what do you mean? And he says, you made the decision to die at the Weasleys rather than seek treatment at any of these other hospitals. Or like, I told you about this clinic in the US that helps, like in America, that specializes in curse breaking. And so he had already kind of given her earlier in the fic like references and said there's all these other places that are not me that you should go to. And he's kind of like, why aren't you planning on doing any of these? And she goes, I told you over a month ago that I wasn't planning on pursuing care, and you kind of just blew me off. And he like blinks, turns super pale, freezes again.
Severance.
And he goes, I thought that was a temporary decision until you graduated. And she said, no, it was permanent. And she says, and I just need to read it because it's such good writing. It's my death, and I think I'm well within my rights to die on my own terms. I'm not obligated to die in a way that meets the emotional needs of other people, especially when almost none of them gave a damn about meeting mine when I was right in front of them. And he is still standing motionless outside the door when she closes it. And so,
They're going to bury her next to Dobby.
I just realized that I forgot to summarize more of this. I forgot to write down notes for more of this fic, but I'm going to finish. I'm going to say the whole fic.
Okay, I did too. This is
the ending?
we finished.
We're going to do the ending.
I finished mine. You can finish yours.
So basically, she closes the door on him and is just like, that's her final word. She's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to keep being in pain. I'm not going to keep doing this treatment. Like, I'm done. And he gives her a minute and then busts into her room and is like, I understand what you're saying. This makes sense, but you deserve to have a life of your own, and you haven't had a chance to do that yet. You are a brilliant person, and you're a really wonderful person. You have so much to do. You have so much to give, and like, don't give up now. And she goes, like, I'm just so tired. I'm so tired all the time, and I'm tired of it. And he goes, well, I will help you. I will keep helping you. Don't worry about it. I will be here for you, and I will go with you if you need me to go with you. And she kisses him, and they bang again. And they kind of like halfway make up, but they don't like officially make a decision. But he essentially says, like, as the way he says it is like, as someone who spent my entire adult life being a pawn to one master or another, I have some understanding of what you felt over the last couple of years, and I don't know that I will ever have a full life after this, and you deserve to have a full life after going through something like that. Like, please do what you need to do to do that. And then essentially they keep banging, but she continues to get weaker and weaker, and she starts to take her newts. She passes out right before the very last one.
Oh no.
And it's kind of a wake-up call for her, and she realizes, like, okay, like, I put myself through hell to try to finish school, and I couldn't do it because I was too sick. So, you know what, why not? Let's go to America. And the last chapter is basically her telling Ron and Harry that she's going to go to America with Severus Snape because he's going to help her try to seek treatment for this thing on her arm. And it's Harry and Ron being like, what? What do you mean? What's going on? And her being like, this
Your
is
arm? What's wrong with your arm?
Yeah, like, you said you were probably going to be fine, right? Like, we just took that at face value and didn't ask any follow-up questions. And
I can't believe you do this on today, the anniversary of Dobby's death.
Men are so stupid.
Exactly. And she's like, this is my decision. I love you guys. I hope I come back.
Wow.
And goes to America with Snape.
Wow.
And
Is
that's
there
the end of that
a
book.
sequel?
That's
Do
the end
know?
of it.
Do we know where in America they were going?
I think it was New York. It
Oh,
was like
classic.
a clinic in New York
Everything's
that
always in New
specialized in curse breaking or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
So
Interesting.
that's the fic.
Nice.
That's the fic.
Nice.
Thoughts? Questions?
I mean, I enjoyed that. One of the things that I was sorry, Emily, was missing a little bit from yours was just like the actual like angst and tension of like the disease or the affliction taking its toll and like the tension between them because of it. The like, I can't have feelings for you because I'm your caretaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they bubble up anyway.
I glossed over mine where it's like, he doesn't think he can do it. Anyways, 'cause I was just like, mine was more like, listen to this batshit story.
Yours,
understandably so.
yeah, 100%.
No, but I understand.
But like
yeah.
a little bit of yours, like the woundedness of it was like a little more surface level of like, you know, like
Physical. Well, yeah.
right. Well, and like the caretaking, like he was taking care of her more than.
I believe it was a triple.
Yeah, it was
wounded
a
soldier.
triple. It was happening.
There was a
all
triple
over the place.
wounded
There was
soldier.
there was a lot of it happening, but I was missing a lot of the nitty gritty of what I like about the trope, and I felt like this one had a little bit more of it. So I did appreciate that. Just the oh, what am I doing? He doesn't like me. He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
Like, or like, oh, you're my patient. I can't do this. It's immoral. Like,
Yeah.
It's never moral. Do it all the time.
I think that's part of like when I have like those moments in like romance or in fan fiction when I've been listening to the podcast, a lot of what I really like are those things where it's like it's taboo, and even though we both want it, it can't happen.
It's wrong. It's forbidden.
But
it's
then
wrong.
lust wins in the end, kind of thing. That's fun. That's what fan fiction's for.
Yeah.
you know?
Very
That's
much
what
so.
romance is for. Well,
Yeah.
the trope, not the.
In real life, I'm
Literal.
like, okay, you're her teacher. This
Yeah,
is
let's
not
not.
okay.
Disgusting.
Bad.
Like,
But in a
oh.
book, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
Right.
and the thing that I like about this fic is it is entirely from her perspective too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're getting her whole inner monologue of like, you know what? I know from the outside this is a little fucked up, but I
Internally-
want it, and I'm spending all this time with this person, and I'm gonna die anyway. So whatever. Like,
Yeah. You
You
get the
know she has
justification.
agency
Right.
because you are watching her make these choices.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
it was from his perspective, I probably would not have had as much fun
Yeah.
like reading this pairing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it's not his agency, whatever, but I want to know like what her thing is. I want to know that she feels good about it.
Right. I don't want it to just be this old creepy teacher preying on a wounded student. Like that's not the fun part of it.
That's not great.
No. But it was very fun.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. And so my original game was going to be asking what everyone's love languages were because
shit!
We already covered that, so I'm trying to think of a game. The only thing I can think of is one of the other reasons I really like this fic is it has always really rubbed me the wrong way that Hermione's torture, like one of the most horrifying things I think that happens in the Harry Potter series is kind of yada yada over. Do you guys have any characters or anything like that, like soapbox, I will rant about this type situations or characters and things that you've read or things you've watched?
From Harry Potter or anything?
Anything.
One is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which has one of my favorite spunky girl sidekicks, which is Marion, which is the girl from the first Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And I wish we had gotten more. I would love to hear her story because when that movie starts, you hear a little bit of it where it's like she went to, oh my God, where is she? It's not Tibet. It's like the Nepal. It's like the Himalayas or something. Have you seen? And she's running like a bar and she's doing a drinking game with all these big burly men. And I believe the backstory is that her and her father traveled there. Her father was another archaeologist and he passed away and she was stranded there. So she kind of made the best of a bad situation. But like she's been on all these adventures. She knows Indiana Jones from the past. And then she sticks with him on that adventure. And then at the end of the movie, they go off like arm in arm, but then she's not in the second movie. And then they fix it in the fourth movie, but that's like a whole other thing. I don't know how I feel about the fourth movie, but
she was done dirty.
Done. I would just love. I think that's such the little taste of that character and the little taste of the backstory that we got from her would make a really interesting movie in itself.
Yeah,
that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking of one.
Fair.
You know, I know that feeling, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure there are plenty of things of like, if like I was watching her in the moment, I'm like, we'll walk away from this and 2 hours later, I'll be like, oh, that one. That's a
call
moment.
in and I'll record it and then I'll put it in.
Hey,
or
guys.
just keep it for the second episode and we can start with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And see if you have any in your brain.
I'll keep it in mind to see if I can pick anything out.
No, but I know I dropped a big one on you.
Yeah. No, but it's just so funny that we talked about. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Because
in
the fic, it's like she talks about like, oh yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be so into like physical touch. So it's gonna be like, well, what is everyone else's thing? But we already covered it.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But now that you've heard both, out of 5 raccoons and trash cans, how would you rate each of ours based off of the wounded soldier trope?
All right. Based off of the wounded soldier trope.
Not what you liked more, just based off the trope.
No, I absolutely. I'm going to give, Emily, I'm going to give yours a 3.5.
Wow.
Raccoons and trash cans, because I think it, you had triple wounded soldier.
I had triple.
There was just wounded soldier all over.
Back to back, baby.
Back to back. I do think a lot of that kind of rested on the fact that they were literally soldiers, and I was missing some of that like angst that the trope is like known for, and maybe it's in the story more and just wasn't in the recap, the retelling as much. But that was something where I was like, there was a lot of mystery stuff going on, but I was like, I don't care about that. I want to hear about the internal lives of like,
I synopsized wrong. That's on me. I apologize.
No, it's fine. You're just getting used to my taste now.
That's true. Yeah, now I gotta learn.
Fair,
you gotta hook me. You gotta get me sold on these.
Give me angst.
See, I don't think about other people. I think about myself going, Lisa, what? Jimmy?
Listen,
yeah.
Very entertained.
Yeah.
Very entertained by the synopsis. But I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for the wounded soldier, just for how there wasn't enough like, it's my duty. No.
Got it. Noted. Heard. Got it.
And then for the same reasons, I'm now going to give the Harry Potter one a 4.5 because I think it had a lot of what I want from a wounded soldier trope. I'm dinging it. I'm not giving it that perfect score. I'm dinging it that like 0.5 just because of
Fair.
a little creepiness with the power dynamic there.
Fair.
But it was still very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it because it is definitely once it popped in my head, I knew that I had to do that one because it is such a I feel like it is a perfect example of
I agree.
of the trope.
It was really good.
Yeah, thanks. Yours too. Yours was just batshit.
Yeah.
Yours
Yeah.
was just absolutely batshit.
It's not my forte, so
No.
I had to delve,
Yeah.
but it was fun.
So, based on what you've heard today, Will, what do you want us to talk about next episode?
All right. I know usually these are based off of what I've heard just now.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
but you've
these
been thinking
conversations.
about things.
Well, there was something brought up, I'm pretty sure in the Christmas episode.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay.
That I thought was very interesting, that piqued my interest, that I was intrigued about. So I thought I might bring it forward unless something really
Oh my
jumped,
God. I
really
think I know what you're
jumped
gonna
out
say.
at me.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Okay.
And there wasn't anything that like I was like, oh, I've never heard of that before. Like they were pretty cut and dry wounded soldier tropes in these. So
okay.
and you've already done Snowden, so
Right.
like I don't want to do that again. But there was a mention of like Amish.
I
love.
knew it. I knew it. I was
but
like,
that feels like maybe too limiting. So I was gonna say like maybe like off the grid.
Off the grid. Okay.
Is kind of like away from the trappings of society,
But still modern day.
Sure, can be,
Not
yeah.
not like an old timey like pilgrim.
so not
thing.
not a historical.
no.
A modern day off the grid.
So like another
fish
type
out
of
of water?
society. Fish out of water.
say that?
Fish out of water, but like I think it's specifically like without the trappings of modern day.
Okay, I think. Oh, this
yeah.
is this
This
is
is
an
a
interesting
challenge.
challenge.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think you're up for it.
I knew as soon as you said Christmas, I was like, oh, he's gonna say Amish. I know he's gonna say Amish.
I
That's so funny.
Sure did.
Yep.
Oh,
okay.
To close us out, hey Jess.
What am I reading?
Yeah, what are you reading?
For Christmas, Keenan got me it's called like DC Pride or something. It's a compilation of DC comics that have LGBTQ protagonists.
That's so cool.
Yes. So
love that.
I'm reading through those. I think the one that I'm reading right now is Batgirl, I think.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Will.
Well.
What
Yeah.
are you reading?
I'm reading Words of Radiance, which is the second book in the Stormlight Archive.
Okay.
By Brandon Sanderson. It's been really good so far. I'm not too far into it, just a few chapters, but there wasn't a big time jump, which I was really glad about because the last book left off, and I was like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And so it picked right back up, and I was like, "Thank God."
Hey, Emily.
Yeah?
What are you reading?
What you read?
Well, I am reading a book called Filthy Hot, and it is the 8th. I'm so excited. It's the 8th in the series. It's called the 5 Points Mob series by Serena Ackroyd, and it's so, guys, it's incredibly dark.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly dark series.
That does not shock me.
And in true fashion, all the books are about a different brother.
Right.
There's like
There's
6
8
brothers.
brothers?
6.
Okay.
Lovely.
So that's what I'm reading.
Huh.
It's great.
All right. Well, listener. Thanks for coming back for season 2.
Yeah.
We're very happy to have Will with us.
Me too.
I'm
And
so happy to be here. This has been a blast.
Good first one.
Yeah?
Good job.
Great.
I had fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time.
And
Yeah, me
we'll be back next week with
Amish fish out of water?
Fish
question
out of
mark?
water or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
off the grid.
Off the grid.
Off the grid.
Bye.
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 Femmes Reading Filth is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Barusian and Jessica Mall. Intro music by Tom Lehrer. Outro music by David Reddick. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Femmes Reading Filth. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.